Okay, then let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
If you can blame your mom for some of the shitty things that happened in your life, can't she blame her mom for mishandling you or raising you poorly? I would have handled this mental hospital situation better if my mom hadn't done this and this and this and taught me this and conditioned me to do such and such. Can't she just blame grandma?
She does do that.
Okay.
She's all the time.
Right. But then you're going to get a chain of it because your daughter is going to do what?
Ew, blame me.
So this is food for thought.
Okay.
If you get to blame your parents, then your parents can blame their parents.
Right.
And your daughter can blame you, and your daughter's daughter can blame
her mother.
Yeah, your daughter. Your daughter is going to grow up and get blamed. You see, it's like a chain of blame.
That doesn't feel good.
No, and it shouldn't, because like I said with the Nick Vujicic example, this whole thing is kind of arbitrary. But we'll dig deeper into it. We'll get to it. Like, you don't have to have a conclusion right yet. You see, there's a lot to think about here.
Yeah. All right.
So is that enough for you on this question? Do you want to move on, or do you want to dig deeper?
Well, you didn't really answer my question.
I mean,
okay. So from what I've gotten so far, just to be clear, if I don't want to be blamed or don't want my daughter to be blamed by her kid, then I can't blame my parents for what they did to me. Now, I think a lot of people might disagree, like people who've had abusive parents. And I just want to put it out there. My mother was never abusive to me. I got spoiled like nobody's business. I got everything handed to me. And some people might argue that that's in a form of abuse as well, but that's not the topic. The point is there was nothing abusive from my parents. The abuse came outside of them. So I think people might have a problem with that. Like, if they come from abusive parents, they feel they have the right to blame them, or my mom did what she thought was best, so maybe I shouldn't blame her for that.
Sure. And Nick Vujicic has the right to blame every bully or God or genetics or his parents. Of course. But he doesn't. And he created success in life not through blame. Yeah. Blame was not his ticket to success. It wasn't like, yes, this is how it unlocked the doors for me. Hooray for blame. It's only when he dropped the blame and took responsibility for his life that he was able to create greatness.
Okay, so then how does somebody who comes from something abusive, okay, I get Nick Vujicic, he was born without arms and legs. So we're going to, just for argument's sake, say his parents had no control over that, okay? But somebody who comes from an abusive family, whose mother and father are abusive physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, whatever way, how can you take responsibility for that if you're a child and you're innocent and you have no control?
I mean, you're asking great questions. This gets a lot deeper into the topic of control, because people are living out their programs. Mm-hmm. They're living out their conditioning. Mm-hmm. So what control do they really have? They have control only of things they're conscious about. You can only do what you know best to do. If you weren't taught better or had never learned better, or you hadn't had life teach you better lessons, mm-hmm. then you're only going to behave the way you know how. You're going to do the best you know how. Right. The best you know how might be abusive. I don't think you made every God-tier parenting decision on the planet.
No.
But I'm sure you were doing the best you knew how.
Yes.
And so people can say, oh, Cyn should have made better parenting decisions. She should have done this and that. And it's like, but should she though? She had total control. Of course she could have done differently. But could she though? Mm. You can only do what you know best. And you can only slightly go past your conditioning. So the best decision you can make might be mildly abusive or kind of suboptimal. As you learn and grow, you start to be able to make better decisions. Nick Vujicic, when he was a teenager, could only make blame decisions. He hadn't learned how to go beyond blame yet. Right. That was the best he could do. For him, that was a plus. Like, well, I didn't kill myself because I'm limbless. I just blamed people. That was the best he could do.
Right.
Is that the best decision? Is that what's going to take him to the top of the list here and create a great life? No, blame is not the optimal decision. Yeah. But it was the best he could do. He's living out his programming. He can only go slightly outside his conditioning. As a limbless teenager, blame was about the best he could pull off.
Right.
Technically, mm-hmm. he has control and he didn't have to blame as a teenager. Mm-hmm. Fair. But also, can we really expect much more? I don't think so. kind of a bit silly to expect more from that teenager.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a bit silly to expect more from a single mom who's been taught X, Y, and Z and is living out her conditioning, and maybe she'll do a little better or a little outside her conditioning, but not fair to expect much more. So when we act like people have total control and they could have easily been Mother Teresa, why didn't they choose all the angelic choices? It's like they didn't really have access to all the angelic choices. Like, it looks like they did, but they really didn't. They were living out their conditioning and doing the best to break out of it that they knew how.
Yeah, and typically those who abuse have been abused. So like, this is what they know. So, I mean, we're not saying it's right or wrong. It just is what it is. And
yeah, this isn't about justification or right and wrong.
Right.
What I'm talking about here is expectations and what's fair to expect from another human being. It's not fair to expect the limbless teenager to be beyond blame instantly.
Yeah.
It's also not fair to expect the single mother who hasn't been taught a whole bunch of things to make every perfect choice ever and never abuse or misparent in any way.
Fair enough. And also, I just want to point out that this doesn't excuse the behavior in any way. This is what I'm getting from you. Like, this is not an excuse. It just is.